When 13-year-old Black American artist Jade Thompson's self-portrait is vandalized and mocked as burnt toast, she weaponizes her pain into a viral masterpiece at the school talent show, sparking a colorism reckoning that forces her community to see the beauty they tried to erase and her own heart to believe it. Jade had always been proud of her art. As a 13-year-old girl with deep, rich brown skin, she spent hours perfecting each stroke of paint, creating pieces that spoke to her heart. Art was her escape, her way of expressing everything that words couldn't capture. That morning, she walked into school clutching the folder that held her latest creation. It was a self-portrait, painted in vivid hues, a celebration of her skin, of her heritage. She couldn't wait to share it. She had put everything into this piece, pouring her soul into the colors and the details, and today was the day she would show it to the class. The air in the school hallway felt charged with energy as Jade made her way through the crowd of students. She could hear the hum of chatter all around her, the quick steps of classmates rushing to their lockers. But despite the noise, Jade felt a calm excitement. She wasn't the most popular student, and she often kept to herself, but today was different. Today, she would share a part of her with everyone, a part she had never dared to show before. When Jade entered her classroom, her eyes briefly scanned the room before she took her seat. She could feel the weight of the stares from some of the students, the occasional glances toward the folder she held protectively against her chest. She set it on her desk carefully, eager for the right moment to reveal it. But that moment didn't come in the way she expected. Savannah, the popular girl in class, led a small group of mean-spirited girls who always seemed to have something cruel to say about someone. Today, it was Jade's turn. Savannah caught sight of Jade's folder as she passed by her desk and smirked, an expression that sent a chill down Jade's spine. "Look at Jade," Savannah said, her voice dripping with mockery. "Midnight's come to class today." A few of the other girls laughed, nudging each other in agreement. "Did you guys see her skin?" Savannah continued, her tone laced with disdain. "It's like burnt toast." The laughter that followed felt like a physical blow, one that hit Jade square in the chest. She froze, the mocking words sinking into her heart. She had spent so much time focusing on her art, believing it would be a way for others to understand her, to appreciate her. But now, all she could feel was the sting of those words. Burnt toast. They echoed in her mind, relentless and cruel. She couldn't understand why it hurt so much. Why was it so hard to simply exist in her own skin? Jade quickly looked down at her desk, hoping to hide the embarrassment that was flushing her cheeks. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to curl up into herself and vanish. But there was nowhere to hide. No matter how hard she tried to ignore the whispers, they followed her everywhere. As the school day went on, Jade's mind was clouded by what had happened. She tried to focus on her work, to push through the pain, but it was impossible. During lunch, she overheard a conversation between two girls in the hallway. They were talking about what it meant to be beautiful, a subject Jade had never given much thought to before. "I just don't get it," one of them said, her voice filled with the casual ease of someone who believed they had all the answers. "Beauty is light skin and straight hair, right?" The other girl nodded, agreeing without hesitation. "Yeah, I guess. It's just the way things are." Jade's stomach dropped. It was as if the world had just handed her a painful reminder that she was different, that she was the one who didn't fit in. She had never thought of herself as ugly, but now, with these words lingering in her mind, she felt it. Maybe they were right. Maybe beauty really was defined by something she could never change, her skin. She wasn't light-skinned, like the girls who seemed to have it all. She wasn't tall and slender, with hair that flowed effortlessly. She was just her. And somehow, her wasn't enough. By the time the school bell rang and Jade walked home that afternoon, she could barely hold her head up. Her shoulders were slumped, her steps slower than usual. When she got home, she immediately went to her room and closed the door. She set her backpack on the bed and walked to the mirror, staring at her reflection. Her brown skin seemed darker than ever, and for the first time, she felt disgusted by it. She scrubbed her face with her hands, as if she could somehow erase what she had become, what she had always been. She tried to see what others saw when they looked at her, but all she could see was the girl they mocked. The girl with dark skin, coarse hair, and a face that didn't fit the ideal image of beauty. She couldn't help but wonder if she would ever be enough for anyone. She even Googled skin lightening creams, reading through the descriptions with a sense of longing. Maybe if she could just change, maybe then the world would see her differently. The sound of footsteps outside her door broke her thoughts. Her mother knocked lightly and entered, her warm eyes filled with concern. Jade turned quickly, trying to hide the tears that had started to spill. Her mother didn't say anything at first. She simply watched her daughter, knowing something wasn't right. Then softly she spoke. "Jade, you're beautiful," her mother said, her voice steady and full of love. "Don't you ever forget that." Jade shrugged, not believing her mother's words. She didn't feel beautiful. She didn't feel anything close to it. She felt like a failure. She felt like she would never be enough. But instead of responding, she simply turned away from the mirror, her gaze falling to the floor. Her mother lingered for a moment, then left the room, leaving Jade alone with her thoughts. As Jade sat on her bed, staring at her reflection again, she couldn't help but wonder, would things ever change? Would she ever learn to see herself the way her mother did? The truth was, Jade didn't have the answer. But what she did know was this. Today, her world felt like it had cracked wide open. And she didn't know how to put it back together. The days following the talent show sign-up were a blur of self-doubt for Jade. She had always been shy, but her love for art had given her a sense of identity, a place where she could truly express herself. Yet, after what happened with Savannah, her confidence crumbled. Jade had signed up for the talent show in a burst of hope, thinking it would be an opportunity to show her art to the world. But now, the thought of stepping on stage felt like an impossible task. Every time she imagined the audience's gaze, all she could hear were the cruel words Savannah had thrown at her, "burnt toast." The days leading up to the show were filled with anxious moments. Jade had worked on her piece, but as the event approached, she couldn't bring herself to finish it. What if people laughed at her again? What if they saw the flaws in her art and, by extension, in her? The whispers of her classmates haunted her every step. They had already made their judgment about her skin, and what if they saw the same flaws in her painting? What if she failed? It was Ms. Ray, the new teacher, who finally reached Jade. Ms. Ray had been at the school for just a few weeks, but she already had a reputation for being warm and encouraging. She had noticed Jade's talent early on, often asking her questions about her artwork and encouraging her to keep going. One afternoon, after seeing the hesitation in Jade's eyes, Ms. Ray pulled her aside. "Jade," she said gently, "I can see you're struggling. But I want you to know something. Your art is beautiful. You don't have to be perfect, just true to yourself. Trust me, I've been where you are." Jade looked at her teacher, unsure what to say. How could Ms. Ray understand? She had light skin and flowing hair, everything that Jade thought was beautiful. But Ms. Ray's expression softened, and she continued, "I've been there. I used to think I wasn't good enough because of the color of my skin. I used to feel invisible. But I realized that when you embrace who you are, nothing can stop you." There was something in Ms. Ray's voice that made Jade pause. The teacher wasn't just speaking from the perspective of someone who had overcome challenges. She was speaking from experience. Jade felt a flicker of hope spark within her. Maybe she could do this. Maybe the talent show wasn't about winning. Maybe it was about showing up for herself. But then came the final blow. The night before the talent show, Jade arrived at school early to prepare her art supplies. When she walked into the art room, her heart dropped. Someone had ruined everything. Her canvas was slashed, and her paints were scattered across the floor. The work she had poured her heart into was destroyed, and there was no way she could replace everything in time. Tears welled up in Jade's eyes as she crouched down, her hands trembling as she touched the ruined supplies. For a moment, she felt like giving up, like it wasn't worth it to keep going. But then a strange thing happened. She walked past the bathroom on her way to the hallway and noticed something on the wall. Someone had written in bold, confident letters, "You are not too dark. The world is just too blind to see your light." Jade stopped, her heart skipping a beat. Those words felt like a lifeline, pulling her out of the pit of despair she had fallen into. They reminded her of something important. She didn't have to change. She didn't have to prove anything to anyone. She just had to be true to herself. With renewed determination, Jade decided to go on with the show. She didn't have perfect supplies, but she had her passion, her colors, and her heart. She would improvise. No one could take that from her. The night of the talent show arrived, and Jade was a bundle of nerves. She stood behind the curtain, peering through the small gap, watching as her classmates gathered in the auditorium. The soft murmur of excited voices, the rustle of programs, and the low hum of the stage lights created an atmosphere of anticipation. Jade swallowed hard, her stomach a twisted knot. Her hands were clammy, and her heart raced in her chest. She wanted to run, to escape, to avoid the spotlight that now felt like an unbearable weight. But deep inside, Jade knew she couldn't. She had made a promise to herself, a quiet vow that she would no longer hide. This wasn't just about the talent show, it was about reclaiming her power. It was about showing everyone, but most importantly herself, that she was enough just as she was. "Jade, you're up next," a voice called from behind her. It was Ms. Ray, her voice full of encouragement, but even that couldn't calm Jade's nerves. Ms. Ray had been with her every step of the way, offering support, reminding her to believe in herself, but nothing could shake the fear that gripped Jade's heart. When the stage manager signaled for her to step forward, Jade took a deep breath. As she walked across the stage and into the spotlight, her heart felt like it was about to beat out of her chest. The audience was a blur of faces, and for a moment, Jade wanted to turn back, to run away. But then she remembered the words that had pulled her from the darkness. "You are not too dark. The world is just too blind to see your light." Jade set her easel up at the center of the stage, her canvas blank in front of her. She had no idea what it would look like when she was finished, but she knew it would be something raw, something real. She grabbed the first paintbrush and dipped it into a rich shade of gold. She began to paint, not with the precision of a seasoned artist, but with the emotion of a young girl finding her voice. Each brushstroke was an expression of her inner turmoil, her dreams, her fears, and most importantly, her strength. The crowd was silent, watching intently as Jade worked, her hands moving in swift, deliberate motions. She painted with wild abandon, not caring if the colors bled together or if the strokes were perfect. She was painting her story. The face slowly began to take shape, a self-portrait, but this time not just of her face. It was a depiction of a girl with dark skin, standing tall and proud, bathed in the golden light of the stars. Jade painted herself as she truly was, strong, unyielding, and unapologetically herself. As Jade stepped back from the canvas, she saw the painting in its entirety for the first time. The face in front of her was not just her own, but a symbol of everything she had struggled with and everything she had become. The girl on the canvas was no longer the shy, unsure Jade. She was a warrior, a goddess bathed in light, standing proudly under a sky full of stars. For a long moment, the audience remained silent. Jade stood there, breathless, her eyes fixed on the painting. Her heart raced as she wondered if anyone would understand, if they would see the message she had tried so hard to convey. And then, slowly, the room erupted into applause. It was loud, thunderous, and for the first time, Jade felt the heat of the spotlight, not as a burden, but as a beacon. Her painting had left a powerful impact. The audience was moved, and Jade felt a rush of pride she had never experienced before. She didn't need validation from anyone else. She had found her voice, and that was enough. But as the applause faded, Jade saw something else that made her heart skip a beat. From the back of the auditorium, Savannah stood up and muttered something under her breath. "That's so ugly," she said, her voice cutting through the moment like a knife. "Just like her." The words stung, and Jade's heart sank for a moment. But then, something remarkable happened. One of the students in the front row, someone Jade had never spoken to before, turned around and whipped out her phone. She recorded the comment, capturing Savannah's hateful words for the world to see. The next day, the video went viral. Savannah's cruel remark quickly became the talk of the school, but it wasn't the art that was under scrutiny anymore. It was her. The video of her calling Jade's painting ugly spread like wildfire, and before long, the hashtag #StandWithJade was trending. Savannah was exposed, and the backlash was swift. People were calling her out for colorist bullying, and soon, The entire school was rallying behind Jade. What had started as an insult had turned into her moment of triumph. Jade was invited to be featured in the local paper, her story of self-love and resilience inspiring others. She smiled as she sat for the photo, proud of how far she had come. For the first time, she truly understood the meaning of her mother's words. She didn't need to change her skin. The world needed to open its eyes and see the beauty that had always been there. That night, after everything had settled, Jade sat alone in her room, looking in the mirror. She studied her reflection for a long time, a small smile tugging at her lips. She didn't feel ashamed of who she was anymore. She was proud. She was enough. Jade had finally found her light, and no one could take that away from her.